Hi, it's Laura. Welcome to the first in what I hope will be a series of videos where we're going to attempt to build a bridge between the community of people who are actually autistic and those of us who are parent advocates. Is that there's a pretty large gap between the autistic community and the parent autistic community. And so what I'd like to start today is a video dialogue between myself and some autistic self-advocates that have been involved in the OAC.
Hey, I'm Elspeth, and I just wanted to make a response to Laura's earlier video as we look at autism and the OAC and that bridge that we're trying to build between the autism community and the parent community, which is really important because, I mean, if we get these two sides working together, I think we can really get a lot done.
But I'm going to start by saying a few things to Elspeth and Kyle, who have been vocal on our boards today, talking about the need for the inclusion of autistic voices in the advocacy movement and the need for diverse voices.
That autistic people are real people, and to give people a real look at what our lives are like, at what our thoughts are like, at what autistic people have to say for themselves, and especially to demystify what autism is, and to let people see a real human being
to it. First of all, I want to applaud Elspeth for drawing attention to the need for intersectionality in the autism community. People with autism don't exist separate from their other characteristics. And so it goes without saying that we have people in our community that are autistic and of color, and autistic and queer, and autistic and Indigenous. And so, I mean, we recognized in the early days of the OAC that we needed to reach out to communities that we know are experiencing autism, but maybe have not been able to raise their voices in advocacy because of language or cultural barriers. I want to try to give you some insight into our world as parents. I never feel like I'm going to be able to tell my autistic children how much my life is different because they're on the spectrum. I'm afraid to do that because I don't want them to think that they've been a burden to me. They've been a blessing. You know, it's interesting, Elspeth, I've heard you say, and it's so powerful, that autism is not a funeral. And that is profoundly true. It's not. There's lots of things about having a kid with autism that are fantastic at that. But it's also true that having a kid that's diagnosed with any special need there's a grieving process. I think anyone, when they start a family, has a picture in their mind of how it's going to be. And then when it's not that, you have to grieve that. And I guess I would ask you to be mindful that when you're talking to our parent community online, often you're talking to people that are too deep in their own pain to be able to hear you.
I wanted to address Laura's discussion of grief, which occurs a lot in parents, but I think it also occurs for people on the autism spectrum, depending, again, on your situation. I remember being read a poem from a mother of a child with Down syndrome, and it was a trip to Holland, and it was discussing how as the mother found out that she was pregnant, as she moved into awaiting this child, awaiting her new baby, that it was like packing for a trip to Italy, and she thought about all the things that Italy was going to be like and all the wonderful things she was going to see in Italy. And the poem moves into her getting off the plane and the stewardess saying, "Welcome to Holland." And of course, the mother says, no, I got on a plane for Italy. And they said, well, you're in Holland now, and bye. The poem really ends with this woman saying, it wasn't Italy that I went to. I wound up in Holland. I didn't want to go to Holland. And I mourned for Italy. And here I am in this country that I didn't sign up for. But Holland is good too. You know, the importance of this poem is that it really works to address the very real sense of grief that parents go through when they have a child, not just with autism, but with any sort of disability. And that traveling from expectation into reality. You hear about that grief. That grief is very real, and it's a very valid feeling as expectation becomes reality. And that grieving process is, I would like to challenge that and say that it's something that a lot of parents go through on and off the autism spectrum. That, you know, when you have a baby, for those of you who have more than one child, for those of you who have a child off the autism spectrum, when a baby is born, it is also a death, because it is saying goodbye to the idea, that golden idea that all parents have. My child's going to be born, and they're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and going to be the best because they're my child. And that's something every parent goes through. All the high dreams and the wonderful thoughts that we have for our kids as we wait for them, as we wait for this waiting process. And then the child is born. And irregardless of whether they have a disability or a complication or whatever, that birth is also a death, because it's a letting go of the baby that we had dreamed up. Well, you know, you could have got on an airplane that went anywhere. I mean, you could have had a baby with Down syndrome. You could have had a baby with schizophrenia. You could have had a kid with attention deficit disorder. You could have had a kid that was born healthy and then was in a terrible car accident and now has an acquired brain injury. You could have a kid with panic disorder. Like, we are, you know, children. Stuff happens.
What are your responses? How do you feel? Have I missed the mark? Yeah, I look forward to your video responses, and I hope we just started something awesome. Thanks. Bye.